I know that these two look awfully similar and even kind of go by the same name, but they are completely different people. One has red hair, kills anyone who gets in his way, and has a deep desire to make the Flash's life a living hell. And the other has red hair, kills anyone who gets in his way, and has a deep desire to make the Flash's life a living hell. I guess they are the same a little bit, but he has fucking red eyes, so that's cool. Today we're going to be talking about Professor Zoom, aka Hunter Zolomon. Professor Zoom is essentially Wally West's arch nemesis who makes his life a living hell to try and make Wally West a better hero, believing with the utmost certainty that without great tragedy, one cannot be a true hero. And after Wally let Zoom down and led him to become the villain he is today, Zoom shares many parallels with the likes of Eobard Thawne, in that they both seek to destroy the Flash's lives. Although Eobard Thawne I'd say is a whole lot more messed up given the list of things he's done to Barry, like killing his mother, or torturing Barry as a kid before he even knew Thawne, or framing Barry's father for a murder he never committed. But that's not to say that Zoom isn't on the same level at all, because he most certainly is. However, Zoom wasn't always a spiteful villain to the Flash, and that's what makes his Reverse Flash persona so tragic in my eyes. Because unlike Eobard Thawne, Zolomon wasn't overtly obsessed with the Flash, wanting to be so much like his idol that it drove him insane. Zolomon was quite the opposite, in fact, as he was once best friends with Wally West and helped him take down the Rogues just as much as he went to the family barbecues. As Zolomon crossed paths with Wally on dozens of occasions, being that he did work as a profiler for the Keystone City Police Department. Which leads me to bring up his ultimately tragic backstory where Hunter turned out to have a troubled relationship with his parents. They rarely ever spoke to each other or to Zolomon himself, and on the day Hunter was leaving for college, he came home to find the police laying siege to his own house, finding out that his father was a serial killer on some Dexter type shit, and when his mother, after finding out, told the police, Hunter's father had killed her. Soon after refusing to give up, his father was killed by the police. Not long after this, Hunter became obsessed with understanding the criminal mind, and he went on to study psychology and criminology in college, where Hunter then later joined the FBI along with his girlfriend Ashley, whom he'd later marry. One of Zolomon's cases resulted in Ashley's father being killed, as Hunter had believed the criminal they were after, known as the Clown, would not use a gun. But Zolomon's belief turned out more wrong than he could have ever imagined, leading to Ashley leaving him shortly after, with the FBI terminating his employment. Hunter was also left with a damaged knee due to the case, and required a cane for walking. Throughout Zolomon's entire life, he was purely a victim of circumstance. Or at least that's what we're all led to believe at first, but I'll get further into that later on. After arriving in Keystone City, he got a job as a profiler. He worked with the police in their Department of Metahuman Hostilities, and his work put him in constant contact with Wally West. And the two went on to become good friends, as his insight was critical in solving a number of cases, but he always resented being stuck behind a desk. During this time of the pair working together, Wally West and his wife Linda Park found out that they were going to have twins. Crime in Keystone City was down more than ever, and Zolomon would finally start to feel somewhat content with his position of helping Wally if he couldn't understand a villain's motives. Even going so far as to try and help rogues by getting them bailed out of prison, offering them several different programs at a chance to achieve better lives. But nothing stays good forever, especially not after the horrific gorilla incident. No, not that one. This event would irreparably change the trajectory of Zolomon's life forever and lead him down the path in becoming the evil Professor Zoom. Let's get into it. During Hunter Zolomon's visit to Iron Heights prison to give the villain known as Peekaboo a chance at a normal life, unbeknownst to Zolomon and Warden Wolf, Gorilla Grodd has been secretly using his telekinetic abilities to manipulate multiple gorillas into breaking Grodd out of Iron Heights. As give or take like 10 to 15 different gorillas land atop the prison via parachute, slaughtering countless guards. During the attack, Grodd's gorilla army strike key points of the prison, knocking out the power. Thus, several villains regain their powers, leading Warden Wolf and Zolomon to attempt to get out safely. But in their efforts, they run into one of the mind-controlled gorillas, and it grabs Zolomon, beating him to holy hell. Until the Flash arrives just in time, breaking his hand from punching the gorilla so much. After Flash saves Zolomon, he requires medical attention indefinitely. So during the gorilla raid, several villains on the Flash's rogues gallery are freed, adding more danger to the already perilous situation the three are in. Luckily for the Flash and Zolomon though, Warden Wolf has a secret safe room where they can both hide till everything blows over. So once the Flash gets the two in there and he knows that they're safe, he runs out to stop Grodd and recapture some of the prisoners. But upon entering the pipeline, every single villain is ready to get a piece of the Flash. Tar Pit burns the Flash up, this guy that I don't know cuts up the Flash with some flesh cards, and just when Wally's getting the shit kicked out of him and you think that it can't get much worse, It does. Grodd breaks out of his cell and wipes the floor with the Flash. Seeking revenge after literally breaking him in two, he decides killing him would be oh too easy. But hurting his friends, that would quench his thirst for revenge. Back over to Zolomon and Warden Wolf, Wolf has healed Zolomon's knee through the power of plot, basically allowing him to run again, without the worry of his bad knee. Just as bloodthirsty gorillas break through, they begin to haul ass as fast as possible, and while running, Zolomon is super happy he can run again after so long. Only for Zolomon to run into Grodd, and Grodd's just like,
I heard you like to run. I can't have that. So I'm gonna break your fucking back now.
No! The Flash comes to and finds Iron Heights in ruin, alongside hearing that Zolomon will never be able to walk again after what Grodd did. And the Flash just lets Grodd go. Nah, I'm obviously kidding. He gets his get back for Zolomon, but it really makes no difference after what Grodd did. And Zolomon wakes up horrified, asking why this had to happen to him, repeatedly to the Flash, with tears streaming down his face. Imagine getting your back broken by a gorilla. Couldn't be me. After this, everything is going spectacularly well for Wally and Linda. Wally's a celebrity, ready to be a loving father and husband, the city adores him, and just when he thought he was having one kid, he and Linda find out that they'll be having twins. Meanwhile, Zolomon is just mauling in the hospital looking back on all of his failures, slowly beginning to grow a disdain for Wally because he's a complete opposite of himself. And this disdain for Wally gets so much worse when Wally finally pays a visit to Zolomon in the hospital, to find Zolomon unwilling to accept the fact that he'll never be able to walk again when Wally literally has the ability to travel back in time, pleading to Wally for him to just go back in time using the cosmic treadmill to undo what Grodd did, or do one better and change one pivotal hour in Zolomon's life that led to everything happening. But Wally doesn't do it, telling Zolomon that changing time can lead to devastating consequences. Zolomon hears Wally saying everything he doesn't want to hear and thinks of him as a hypocrite, believing that the Flash family is known at this point to change time on a whim when it suits them, but never for others. Saying to Wally that he's never experienced tragedy like he has, so Wally can never understand. Wally is adored by the city and the world, has a loving wife with twins on the way, and is the fastest man alive. His life is anything but tragic in Zolomon's eyes. So Wally, not really knowing how to help Zolomon anymore at this point, he just zips away. Later, Wally talks with Linda about what Zolomon said about him, that he's selfish and should help his best friend despite the consequences. And Linda's just basically like, fuck that guy. Let's just have a fucking barbecue. Like, just imagine you're best friends with a god, essentially, and you ask them to fix your legs, and all they respond with is shrugging their shoulders and just running away. I honestly can't even blame Zolomon for what he does later. Because what Zolomon ends up doing is he breaks into the Flash Museum and pushes buttons on the cosmic treadmill, attempting to go back in time himself. But the treadmill explodes and Zolomon wakes up in the hospital again. Upon sitting up in his bed, Zolomon reflects on his life as he reaches for a glass of water, but accidentally drops it, thinking about how his mother was brutally murdered after finally telling the police of her husband's killing of 5 girls and burying them behind their garage on his first day of college. There's like so many things wrong with that. Only for everything to go horribly wrong with the death of his father-in-law and the inability to ever walk properly ever again. What then followed was his demotion and the divorce from the love of his life. Everything in Zolomon's life went horribly wrong. And here's why. Can you take a guess? It was Eobard Thawne! That's right. Eobard Thawne changed events in Zolomon's life to make his life so tragic and full of hatred that Wally could have his very own Reverse Flash, because Thawne is just that evil. That's literally all it is. After reflecting all the events in his life, he looks around to find that the glass of water is still falling and has somehow regained the ability to use his legs. Ecstatic, he walks out of his room to find everyone frozen in time, realizing that when the cosmic treadmill exploded, it transferred powers to Zolomon akin to the Flash's. And at first he thinks that he's just kind of gone mad and it's all in his head at this point, but thinks that if this is really happening, it's a sign. A sign that Zolomon has been given a gift where in order for Wally to be a better hero, he must face the ultimate tragedy. Wally must face his ultimate opposite. A man who has lost everything to tragedy that can inflict that very same tragedy onto another to make them better. And no one fits the profile more than Zolomon himself, fully embracing the villain persona of Zoom. After this, we cut to the Flash family barbecue where Wally and Linda get straight into it and announce that they're going to be parents very soon. And everyone is super happy for them. This is going to be the last time they'll all be happy like this for a while. Everyone's filled with joy. Wally's making out with Linda. the specters just watching them. And then from somewhere in Keystone City, Zoom snaps his fingers so fast he creates a sonic boom so big it feels like an earthquake. Overwhelmed by the consecutive sonic booms, Wally and Jay rush off to stop whatever is causing this to happen. On their way, several buildings crumble, and the Flashes try to handle the situation to the best of their abilities, saving whoever they can. Once the disaster is finally averted, Jay Garrick cleans up most of the mess until he hears a voice speak so fast telling him to stay away, as he's then cracked in the face by Zoom before Jay could even process what was going on, sending Jay hurtling in the air. Luckily, Wally grabs him before impacting with the ground, but Jay is out of the race after this indefinitely. Zoom then blitzes to Wally and tells him that he'll make his wife experience great sorrow before blitzing away again, almost seemingly teleporting to Linda in an attosecond with Zoom's extremely powerful speed. Zoom, moving so fast, effortlessly, tries to talk slow enough for Linda to hear that he's only helping Wally be a better hero, but Linda, scared out of her mind, calls out to Wally. Impulse tries to get a hit in on Zoom while distracted, but Zoom is just so fast that he's like air. Even with Impulse's super speed, he can't even see Zoom unless he stands in one place long enough. And you can't help but think that if even a speedster can't see him coming, how can anyone fight what they can't see? Because Zoom ends up packing the kid up in seconds and blitzes Linda away with him, bringing her right back to Wally with his hand at Linda's throat. At first, Wally and Jay try to absorb the speed out of Zoom, but Zoom simply grabs Jay by the jaw and tosses him aside, throwing Wally off his game, leading Zoom to ask Wally if what he's doing is even supposed to hurt him, as he just simply trips Wally, sending him tumbling. Once back to his feet, Wally demands to know what Zoom would want with Linda, desperately trying to get at the very least one hit in on Zoom, while Zoom just casually deflects each blow, asking Wally if he knows how many people would like to get their hands on his wife, his precious Linda, yelling at Wally that Linda is nothing more than a jewel to Wally, a rare diamond you leave out in the open to show off, rather than leave in the vault, stating that she's nothing more than a target and she needs to go away. Zoom then snaps his fingers and creates a sonic boom directly next to Linda. Wally instinctively runs to save her, but Zoom stops Wally and asks him how it feels to be truly helpless, to be unable to save the ones you love, telling Wally to learn from this very moment and be better. As Wally achingly crawls to his wife, cradling her in his arms till an ambulance arrives. Next thing, Linda is carried through to the emergency room, and Jay alongside Impulse are there for emotional support. This, however, gets interrupted when Zoom not so much as a fucking hour later decides, yeah, I'm back for more, y'all. So Jay and Impulse try to give Wally their speed so Wally can stand a chance against Zoom. But even with their lended speed, it somehow still is not enough to compete against Zoom, appearing as just a blur to Wally. As their fight sends them all the way to what I assume is Alaska, in which Zoom says that trick absorbing speed from his allies will not be enough to stop him, because Zoom is beyond speed, laying blow after blow on an utterly defeated Wally, with the added cherry on top of revealing that his best friend was truly Zoom all along. Wally is unbelievably shocked at the revelation that Zolomon was Zoom the entire time, and Zoom explains to Wally that everything he's doing is to make Wally a better hero, so that Wally will do anything in his power to help people in need. During their fight, Zoom runs back to Keystone to check on Linda and zips back to tell Wally that the twins they were expecting are dead now. Because of Zoom's sonic boom, Linda miscarried, zipping Wally in front of Linda in pain on the hospital bed as he whispers into Wally's ear that you were going to have a baby girl and a baby boy. I'm teaching you to be a better hero, Wally. Lesson 1 is over. Time for lesson 2. Zoom tells Wally that he's going to cripple him in an effort to prove to Wally that if he suffered the same tragedies as Zoom, he'd feel the same way about wanting to change the past. To want to go back and stop one pivotal moment in time, just like Zoom did, and prevent Zoom from ever snapping his fingers, killing his unborn children. But while the two are fighting, Zoom's powers begin to crackle holes in the time stream, and one of those cracks in time shows his ex-wife, which causes Zoom to break down in a fury, blitzing away. Later, we cut to Wally recovering at the Keystone City Hospital, boiling with rage that he's lost his children. And Jay figures out for Wally how Zoom is so cracked with the Speed Force, in which we discover that when Zoom tampered with the Cosmic Treadmill, it had given him Speed Force abilities just like the Flash family, but Zoom siphons his speed powers from somewhere entirely different from them. He siphons it from time itself. Because his powers work through the time stream, Zoom still moves in the present with them, but he can basically control how slow or how fast time moves around himself. However, the more he runs, he tears apart the timeline, so the clock is running out to stop Zoom. So in an effort to stop Zoom, the entire Flash family grant Wally their collective speed to stand somewhat of a chance against Zoom. Wally then blitzes off to find Zoom, and when he finally sees him, he sees him clearly, not just as a blur anymore, but everything around them is frozen in time like statues, as they are both in a place between the ticks of a second. Wally wallops on Zoom, and after a few punches, Zoom thinks Wally is still holding back, so he runs off to kill Linda. Racing across the world, Zoom tells Wally that the only way to stop him is by killing him, but Wally refuses. In their fight, they run around the world several different times and bump into plenty of different superheroes, but with the both of them moving so fast, everyone else is frozen. However, the race eventually comes to an end with Wally putting Zoom in a chokehold. Debating on whether or not to snap his neck, a crack in time appears in front of Zoom where he told his team that the clown wouldn't use his gun, and Wally thrusts Zoom's head inside the crack, causing Zoom's powers to ripple across the time stream itself. Zoom becomes completely frozen in time, and Wally wins, but still loses. Later, Zoom is sentenced to Iron Heights Penitentiary, where his colleagues wonder how Zoom could have become such a monster, while Zoom is forced to replay the moment where his path to tragedy begun over and over and over, frozen in time forever. The story also doesn't have a happy ending either. There is no timey-wimey bullshit where Wally travels back in time to stop Zoom coming out facing no actual consequences. Instead, it ends with Wally telling Linda that he stopped Zoom, but Linda doesn't even care, as they both cry together from the pain of the miscarriage. Ultimately, Hunter Zolomon's terrifying and yet tragic nature arises from a combination of his personal pain, his warped view of what a true hero can be, and his utterly ruthless actions. He serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of what unchecked power and the devastating consequences of one's personal tragedies can do to a person when combined. To me personally, I feel like Zoom is pretty much irredeemable through and through, despite his later sacrifice and so on. It's just that to be so consumed with evil that you would directly kill someone's unborn children and constantly make that person's life a living hell, and justify those actions by saying that it makes that person a better hero, is the biggest form of cope I could ever hear. Zoom is a vile Flash villain right up there with Eobard Thawne. So I hope y'all like this video about Hunter Zolomon, and don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and as always, I'll catch y'all on the flip side.